love, hope, and faith with Heather Murdock.
And we are back. Welcome back to Love, Hope, and Faith. I'm here today with Sharon Bollum. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
It's actually Bollum.
Bollum.
Only my mother-in-law really cares.
Okay, so. Exactly. Sharon Bollum, and you are a producer of a documentary called 40 Churches in 40 Weeks, as well as writing a book on that same thing. You have a passion for the church.
Yes.
And we were talking about that before we went to break. But I want to find out, we'll talk more about that, but I want to find out who Sharon is. So tell me about your life. Tell us about your childhood.
Oh my goodness. How much time do we have?
Yeah.
I did not grow up in a Christian home. My father was an atheist. He thought if there was a God, it was probably him.
Okay.
And so, we kind of thought maybe that was true for a while.
Yeah.
My mother was sort of an agnostic. She didn't not believe, but she didn't have any faith. And I knew from a very, very early age, and it always feels crazy when I say it, but it's the truth. I was 3 years old when I first met God, even though, I didn't go to church for the first time till I was 7. But there was just something that I don't know what it was. I'll have to wait until I get to heaven to find out what happened at 3. But from that moment on, I had a hunger to find him. And once in a while, a neighbor didn't even know their name would invite us to church, and there were 8 kids, so my mom's like, yeah, take them all, just
There are 8 kids in your family?
Yeah.
Okay, what order are you?
I'm number 7.
Okay.
You cannot get any more invisible than being number 7 in a family of 8. Trust me, I know it. So, and I think that feeling that I had for God made me feel special. It also made me feel like an alien in my own family. I'm the only Christian in all of them.
Wow.
But so from an early age, I was hungry to find God, find out more about God. And so as a consequence, anytime somebody invited me, I would go. So I went to a Baptist church and a Methodist church and a Jehovah's Witness church and a Mormon church. I was actually baptized Mormon when I was 10. And, it's like all they had to do is say, God is here. And I'm like, all right, I'm going.
I'm there.
So I didn't actually become saved until I was 16. And you're too young to remember this, but the Southern Baptist Church put on a national campaign. They had these billboards that went up everywhere, and all it said was, I found it, period. Didn't say what it was, just I found it. And of course that sparked all this curiosity and everybody, do you know what it is?
Yeah, what's it?
It went on for like, I don't know, a couple of months to where people were actually going, what? And then the billboards changed, and it was just Jesus. I found Jesus. And so I came to Christ then, and I was a junior in high school. And I think that I was radically changed on the inside, but my life on the outside didn't change. And so it was very confusing for me for years more. And I didn't actually put some of those pieces together until after I'd become a mother, and my desire to have my children know Christ was actually what caused us to begin to go to church on a regular basis. So from there, how I wound up in ministry is just crazy. I was in a church that did not believe in women in ministry at all. In this church, the women weren't allowed to pray. They weren't allowed to carry the offering plate or anything. And I was kind of confused by that. And I went to the pastor and I said, could you help me understand that? Because I don't, I don't understand why it's this way. How can a woman be qualified to run a Fortune 500 company Monday through Friday, but come Sunday, she's not qualified to do anything. I'm willing to learn, teach me. I just want to know, I just want to understand. And so they formed this little study group to teach me my place, I guess, I don't know. And I asked them, I said, so if a woman came to you and she said that she felt God was saying something, would you disqualify the message because of her gender? And he said, well, no, God doesn't speak to women.
You're kidding me.
No. And
oh my gosh. Does he even know the Bible, this person?
This isn't.
What about all the women at Jesus' feet? What about all the women that first saw Jesus, the resurrected,
right?
Right? Yeah.
Well, he is actually a Methodist church, so it wasn't like some marginal ministry.
I thought the Methodists have women as pastors.
Some do now.
Okay.
But this was in the 80s.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I'm old. So anyway, that was sort of a breaking point for me. And I looked at him and I said, you know, it's not as if I feel like I'm called to do something special for God, but I would sure hate to think that if I was, I would be disqualified just by virtue of my gender. And so I wound up leaving that church, and about another 6 years later, I was actually called to be a children's pastor. And man, that was a huge
How did you know
surprise.
you were called? What was that like? Was there a moment, or was it just an unfolding?
Okay, so awesome story. There were 5 pastors of this church that I had been going to, and they had been meeting and praying about me, and I had no idea. And they called me in and said that, you know, this is what we believe God is saying. And I thought they were hiring me to be an assistant to the children's pastor. And I went back for 4 different interviews, and I was like, okay, listen, if you don't think I can do a good job at cutting out shapes and putting them on the bulletin board, that's okay. Because, you know, I have like 4 other jobs.
Yeah.
But after 4 interviews, I mean, maybe I'm just not the right person. And he looked at me and he said, well, of course you are. This is a big decision. And I'm thinking, gosh, these people are really kind of
Really
over the
thorough
top.
for
So
assistant.
I said, okay, well, if you want me, then absolutely. And he said, okay, well, we need to start getting you through some of the education so that we can get you licensed. A license now for billboards? I mean, what are we talking about? And then he said, well, didn't you know? I said, no what? And he said, we believe that you've been called by the Lord to be a pastor. And
powerful.
this is just the way that you begin. But I went home and told my husband, I was like, honey, they think I'm a pastor. Oh my gosh, they have no idea. Oh my goodness. And then I lived in fear for about 6 months that somebody was going to walk into my office and say, you're right.
Oh, we made a big mistake.
We made a big mistake.
Yeah.
This was not supposed to be. And I just got so anxious about it. And I would cry when we prayed together in the morning. There was another children's pastor, and she finally asked me, she said, what is the matter? And I said, I don't feel qualified.
Oh my gosh, I can so relate.
I don't feel qualified. And she let me cry for a couple more minutes, and she said, are you finished? And I said, yeah. She said, okay. You're not qualified. So what? Sometimes God calls the qualified. Sometimes he qualifies the called.
Amen.
And you're called.
Amen.
And you're either going to walk in that or not, but you need to make up your mind. You either are going to receive what God has given you, or you're not. But you can't live like this anymore.
And that's the enemy. The enemy wants us to believe that we can't do it.
Yeah.
But we're not qualified, but he is.
That's right.
You know, and I can so relate, and I think so many people watching this can relate, because I went through this exact same thing. I am not qualified. I don't know enough. I've done too many bad things. I'm still messed up. And that's just the enemy wants to keep us down and keep us from our purpose, so we can't build God's kingdom.
We know his voice better than almost anybody else's, unfortunately. But yeah, that was absolutely the case. And the longer he can keep you off mission, the better.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
But that was kind of my moment, was then.
That's powerful. Very good. So then you got into children. Then you became a children's pastor.
Correct.
And how many years did you serve in that way?
I was 6 years there, and then I was called to another church, and I served there as a worship pastor for a while, and I was responsible for all the counseling and care ministries and that sort of thing, and then ultimately was the associate pastor there. And our senior pastor resigned and moved his family to Louisiana, and that was really hard because he was a great pastor, but the next pastor came in, and that was sort of the beginning of the season of my discontent. And there was just something about the superficiality of the direction that he wanted to go, and I thought, I just can't do that. I just can't do that. I have missed out on so much with my family because ministry is so demanding, and I would give it all. I mean, I would literally lay down my life, but it has to be for something meaningful.
Exactly.
And if this isn't
for kingdom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I didn't know what would be next for me. All I knew is I felt God release me from there and just go. So I resigned and thought, okay, God, what am I going to do now? I gave you my life a long time ago. I don't want it back. I don't know what to do. And I thought, you know, if he wants me to be in another church staff position, I will humbly serve, and it's his business to keep me in or not. So I accept his decision either way. So there was a few months of just, okay, well, I'm going to rest.
Uncertainty, or okay. Were you clear that you were supposed to? Did you have peace in just taking that time off?
Yeah.
Or were you just, or were you like anxiously thinking, what am I doing? You know, how was that time period for you?
Probably both.
Yeah.
I remember when I first slept in on a Sunday morning, I was like, holy cow, this is awesome.
This is wrong. Yeah. Oh, this is awesome.
Oh my gosh. Like I'm rolling out of bed about 90 minutes later than usually I would be at the church and making sure everything was set to go.
Yeah.
But then there was that, I don't want to be a spectator. That's not who I'm cut out to be.
And all the programs, all the programmatic aspect of church can be such a burnout. I mean, to where you're just doing busy stuff.
Yeah.
But what are we doing it for?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was the question that I started nagging at me. A friend of mine came to me, and we had been just looking for what was going to be our next church home. And we would, visit churches going, oh my God, that was boring, or what's going on there, and I can't believe people are coming here week after week, and it was difficult. And I thought, wow, if it's this hard for people who are committed to Christ to find a place where we can connect and participate in worship, how hard is it for somebody who doesn't know what to look for?
Exactly.
And that was the beginning of 40 Churches in 40 Weeks.
And how many years ago was that?
2009 was when I decided to write the book. And then 2010, we thought we would start the traveling, but I was in a near-fatal car accident, so that sort of sidelined things for a little while. Had a little brain injury.
We'll talk about that when we come back. We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be back in 3 minutes.
You're watching Amador County's local television network,